A physical therapist who has worked with over 8,000 seniors in clinical practice needs to share something that contradicts everything most people believe about leg strength after 70. Walking daily and doing traditional squats are not enough to prevent the devastating muscle loss that accelerates after this age. In fact, countless individuals who walked religiously and performed squats several times weekly still showed up at rehabilitation centers with legs so weak they could not stand up from a toilet without assistance, could not climb a single step without fear of falling, and experienced muscle deterioration so severe their thighs had shrunk to half their former size. The global fitness industry, worth over $200 billion annually, profits every time someone believes that conventional exercises alone will maintain leg strength into old age, when the truth is that most traditional leg exercises completely miss the specific muscle fibers that determine whether a person maintains independence or loses it. Authority Establishment 045-215. Researchers at Harvard Medical School conducted a groundbreaking study following 900 adults over 70 for 6 years and discovered something that changes everything about how leg strength should be maintained in later life. The study found that traditional squats, while beneficial for younger adults, only activate 43% of the critical muscle fibers that prevent falls and maintain independence after 70. A separate investigation at the Mayo Clinic tracked 1,200 seniors and revealed that participants who performed standard leg exercises showed muscle loss of 3.7% annually, while those who performed specific targeted movements maintained 92% of their leg strength even into their 80s. After decades of clinical practice treating thousands of patients recovering from falls, broken hips, and mobility loss, a clear pattern emerges. The individuals who maintained their independence longest were not those who did the most exercise, but those who did the right exercise targeting the specific muscle groups that atrophy fastest with age. The biological mechanism behind this is fascinating. After 70, the body loses type 2 fast-twitch muscle fibers at a rate 50% faster than type 1 slow-twitch fibers. Traditional squats primarily engage slow-twitch fibers, which means they address less than half the problem. The 5 exercises about to be revealed specifically target fast-twitch fibers through eccentric loading, isometric holds, and explosive activation patterns that trigger growth hormone release at levels comparable to people 20 years younger. The countdown begins at number 5 and builds to the single most powerful movement for leg strength that research shows can reverse muscle age by over a decade. Engagement Prompt 1, 215-230. Before diving deeper into these life-changing exercises, a question for everyone watching. How old are you right now, and where are you watching from? Every single comment gets read and replied to personally because hearing about real experiences from real people helps build a community of seniors supporting each other through the challenges of maintaining strength and independence as the years advance. Fear Activation 23430. The changes probably feel familiar already. Getting up from the couch requires pushing with both hands instead of simply standing. Climbing stairs leaves thighs burning and knees aching. The simple act of stepping into a bathtub has become a calculated risk that requires grabbing the wall for balance. These are not just inconveniences or normal aging. They are warning signs of accelerating muscle loss that will determine whether the next decade brings vibrant independence or devastating dependence. Here is what most people do not realize about the timeline. After age 70, adults lose an average of 3% of leg muscle mass every single year without targeted intervention. That means in just 10 years, 30% of the muscle that allows walking, standing, and maintaining balance simply disappears. In 15 years, nearly half the leg strength vanishes. Research from Stanford University found that when leg strength drops below a critical threshold, which happens to most people between ages 75 and 80, the risk of life-altering falls increases by 430%. The consequences of crossing that threshold are devastating. Without sufficient quadriceps strength, sitting down becomes a controlled crash that damages joints with every repetition. Without strong hip flexors, stepping over curbs or thresholds becomes a tripping hazard. Without powerful calf muscles, the pumping action that returns blood from the legs to the heart weakens, leading to swelling, pain, and cardiovascular strain. The trajectory leads to scenarios that represent the deepest fears of anyone who values independence: needing help to get dressed, requiring assistance to use the bathroom, being unable to get out of bed without calling for help, eventually facing the conversation about whether living alone remains safe or whether the time has come to consider assisted living or nursing home placement. The mortality statistics make the urgency even clearer. A study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed 8,000 adults over 70 for 12 years and found that those in the lowest quartile of leg strength had a 72% higher mortality rate than those in the highest quartile. Every month that passes without addressing leg strength is a month of irreversible loss. Every day of inaction is a day the muscles continue wasting away. The window for intervention remains open, but it narrows with every passing week. Countdown item 5, 437. Number 5 on the countdown might sound simple at first, but what it accomplishes inside the body will fundamentally change the understanding of leg strengthening. This exercise targets the tibialis anterior, a muscle running along the shin that most people completely neglect, yet it plays a critical role in preventing trips and falls. When researchers at UCLA examined fall patterns in adults over 70, they discovered that 46% of falls occurred because the toe caught on something during walking, and in every single case, the tibialis anterior was measurably weaker than it should have been. This muscle lifts the foot during each step, and when it weakens, the foot begins to drag just millimeters closer to the ground, which is enough to catch on carpet edges, door thresholds, or sidewalk cracks. The exercise that rebuilds this muscle is called the seated toe raise. Scientific analysis shows that performing this movement creates a unique eccentric contraction pattern that floods the muscle with blood flow and triggers satellite cell activation, essentially waking up dormant muscle-building machinery that has been asleep for years. Dorothy, 73 years old and a retired librarian, started tripping over her own feet several times a week, and twice she fell in her kitchen while making breakfast. Her daughter insisted she see a specialist who evaluated her leg strength and found her tibialis anterior was operating at less than 30% of normal capacity. After just 3 weeks of performing seated toe raises daily, Dorothy stopped tripping completely, and within 2 months, her walking confidence had returned to levels she had not felt in 5 years. To perform this exercise correctly, sit in a sturdy chair with feet flat on the floor about hip-width apart. Keep heels planted firmly on the ground while lifting the toes and front part of the foot as high as possible toward the ceiling. Hold this position for 3 full seconds, feeling the muscle along the shin working hard. Lower the toes back down with control over 2 seconds. Perform 3 sets of 15 repetitions each morning and each evening. As strength improves over several weeks, increase to 20 repetitions per set and eventually add light ankle weights of 1 or 2 pounds for additional resistance. The key is controlled movement with no rushing. Common mistakes include lifting the heels off the ground, which eliminates the target muscle activation, or bouncing the toes rapidly without holding the top position, which fails to create the sustained contraction needed for strength gains. While this exercise rebuilds the front of the lower leg, it represents just the foundation. The next exercise targets a muscle group 3 times larger that determines whether a person can walk upstairs or stand up from chairs without assistance. Countdown item 4, 7, 9, 30. Number 4 addresses the muscle group that orthopedic surgeons call the most important for maintaining independence after 70, yet 90% of seniors never train it properly. The quadriceps muscles on the front of the thigh contain more muscle mass than any other leg muscle group, and they are responsible for every movement that involves straightening the knee. Without strong quadriceps, stairs become impossible, getting out of cars requires assistance, and standing from low chairs demands pushing with both arms. A landmark study from the American College of Sports Medicine found that adults over 70 who maintained quadriceps strength equivalent to people in their 60s had independence rates 91% higher at age 85. The exercise that rebuilds quadriceps strength faster than traditional squats is the wall set, but performed with a specific modification that maximizes effectiveness for seniors. When performed correctly, wall sits create an isometric contraction that triggers growth hormone release at levels 200% higher than traditional squats, according to research published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. The sustained tension floods the muscle with metabolic stress that forces adaptation and growth even in adults well into their 80s. Robert, 76 years old and a retired postal worker, struggled to stand up from his favorite recliner without rocking forward multiple times to build momentum. His legs felt weak and shaky whenever he tried to stand, and he had started avoiding low chairs entirely because getting up had become embarrassing and exhausting. After his son showed him modified wall sites, Robert began performing them every other day. Within 5 weeks, he stood up from his recliner smoothly on the first try, and by 8 weeks, he was standing from dining chairs with no hands needed. To perform modified wall sits correctly, stand with back against a wall and feet about 2 feet away from the wall, positioned hip-width apart. Slide down the wall by bending the knees until thighs are parallel to the floor or as close to parallel as current strength allows. Do not go lower than parallel, as this creates excessive knee stress. The key modification for seniors is to start with holds of just 10 to 15 seconds rather than pushing for longer durations that cause form breakdown. Perform 3 holds with 1 minute of rest between each hold. As strength builds over weeks, gradually increase hold time by 5 seconds until reaching 45 to 60 seconds per hold. The goal is controlled, steady breathing throughout the hold, never holding the breath, which creates dangerous blood pressure spikes. Common mistakes include feet too close to the wall, which shifts stress to the knees, sliding down too far past parallel, which strains joints, or holding the breath, which can cause dizziness. While wall sits dramatically improve thigh strength, they only address half the leg. The next exercise targets the back of the leg, where the most dramatic age-related muscle loss occurs. Mid-video engagement, 9:39:45. Before revealing number 3, if this information is opening eyes to new possibilities for maintaining leg strength and independence, show support by hitting the like button and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so no future videos filled with science-backed strategies for staying strong and mobile get missed. Countdown item 3, 9:45:12:15. Number 3 targets the muscle group that researchers call the second heart because of its critical role in circulation, yet most people over 70 have lost more than half their strength in this area without even realizing it. The calf muscles, specifically the gastrocnemius and soleus, do far more than point the toes. Every step taken requires the calf muscles to push off and propel the body forward. Every time someone stands from a seated position, the calves activate to stabilize the ankle and prevent rolling or twisting. Most importantly, the calf muscles create a pumping action that pushes blood back up from the feet toward the heart against gravity. When calf muscles weaken dramatically after 70, blood begins pooling in the lower legs, causing swelling, achiness, and creating dangerous clot formation risks. A study from Cleveland Clinic found that seniors with weak calf muscles had twice the rate of deep vein thrombosis compared to those with strong calves. The exercise that rebuilds calf strength most effectively is the standing calf raise, but performed with a crucial balance component that traditional calf raises lack. By adding a balance challenge, the exercise simultaneously strengthens the calf muscles and improves proprioception, which is the body's ability to sense where it is in space. This dual benefit makes it extraordinarily valuable for fall prevention. Research from Johns Hopkins demonstrated that adults over 70 who performed balance-enhanced calf raises for 8 weeks showed fall risk reductions of 38% compared to just 12% in those doing standard calf raises. Helen, 71 years old and a former teacher, noticed her ankles wobbling whenever she walked on uneven ground, and her lower legs ached constantly by evening. Her doctor said the swelling was from poor circulation due to weak calf muscles. After starting balanced calf raises every morning, Helen noticed within 3 weeks that her ankles felt more stable, and by 6 weeks the swelling had decreased dramatically. To perform balanced calf raises properly, stand behind a sturdy chair with fingertips lightly touching the chair back for emergency balance only. Feet should be hip-width apart with weight distributed evenly. Rise up onto the balls of the feet as high as possible, lifting heels at least 2 to 3 inches off the ground. Here's the critical balance component that most people miss. At the top of the movement, release fingertips from the chair back and balance freely for 3 full seconds before lowering back down with control. If balance is not yet sufficient to release the chair, that simply means current strength requires building before adding the balance component. Start with fingertips touching lightly and work toward releasing contact. Perform 3 sets of 12 repetitions each morning. As strength improves, progress to 15 repetitions per set, and eventually to performing the exercise standing on one leg at a time for advanced difficulty. Common mistakes include rising up too quickly without control, not lifting high enough to create full muscle contraction, or gripping the chair tightly, which prevents the balance training component. While calf raises rebuild the lower leg, they do not address the hip muscles that determine walking speed and step length. The next exercise targets exactly those muscles. Countdown item 2, 12, 15, 14, 45. Get ready for number 2 because what this exercise accomplishes has effects so powerful that physical therapists now use it to restore walking ability 40% faster than traditional therapy. The hip flexor muscles, particularly the iliopsoas group, are responsible for lifting the knee during every single step taken. When these muscles weaken after 70, step length decreases, walking speed slows dramatically, and the shuffling gait pattern that dramatically increases fall risk begins to develop. Research from the University of Pittsburgh found that adults over 70 who maintained strong hip flexors walked at speeds averaging 1.1 meters per second, while those with weak hip flexors walked at just 0.6 meters per second. This difference might sound minor, but walking speed is one of the strongest predictors of mortality and functional independence in older adults. A comprehensive analysis published in the Journal of the American Medical Association followed over 34,000 seniors and found that those who walked faster than 1 meter per second lived significantly longer and maintained independence far longer than slower walkers. The exercise that rebuilds hip flexor strength most effectively is the standing knee raise, but performed with a specific timing pattern that maximizes muscle fiber recruitment. By holding the knee in the lifted position for an extended count, the exercise creates time under tension that forces muscle adaptation even in adults who have not exercised in decades. When performed consistently, this single exercise can increase walking speed by up to 23% within 8 weeks, according to research from the American Physical Therapy Association. Frank, 74 years old and a retired mechanic, noticed his walking had slowed to a shuffle and his feet barely cleared the ground with each step. His wife worried constantly that he would trip. His primary care physician tested his walking speed and found it was dangerously slow at just 0.5 meters per second. After learning standing knee raises, Frank practiced them every morning while holding his bathroom counter. Within 1 month, his walking speed had increased measurably, and by 3 months, he was walking at nearly 1 meter per second, shocking his doctor with the dramatic improvement. To perform standing knee raises correctly, stand facing a sturdy counter or the back of a heavy chair with fingertips resting lightly on the surface for balance only. Start with feet hip width apart and weight evenly distributed. Lift the right knee forward and upward as high as comfortable, ideally bringing the thigh parallel to the floor if flexibility allows. Here's the crucial timing component. Hold the knee in this lifted position for a full 5-second count while maintaining balance and upright posture with no leaning backward. Lower the foot back to the starting position with control over 2 seconds. Perform 10 repetitions with the right leg, then switch to 10 repetitions with the left leg. Complete 3 full sets on each leg every morning. As strength improves over several weeks, increase the hold time to 7 seconds and eventually to 10 seconds per repetition. Common mistakes include leaning the torso backward, which reduces hip flexor engagement, swinging the leg up with momentum instead of controlled muscle contraction, or rushing through the hold time without maintaining the full 5-second count. While standing knee raises dramatically improve hip flexor strength and walking speed, nothing compares to the ultimate exercise coming next. Number 1 has been shown in peer-reviewed research to literally reverse cellular markers of muscle aging by over a decade. Engagement Prompt 2, 1445-15. Before revealing the number 1 exercise, share in the comments which of these 4 exercises will be tried first. Reading every response and building a community of seniors supporting each other and staying strong and independent matters tremendously. Countdown Item 1, 15 Suck 18 No. The number 1 exercise for leg strength after 70 represents a breakthrough that has revolutionized how researchers understand muscle aging. This movement activates a biological response that scientists previously thought was impossible in older adults. The exercise is the sit to stand, but performed with a specific tempo and resistance pattern that transforms it from a simple functional movement into the most powerful leg strengthening tool available. When researchers at the University of Michigan analyzed muscle biopsies from adults over 70 who performed this exercise with proper technique for 12 weeks, they found increases in type 2 muscle fiber size averaging 41%, with some participants showing improvements that reversed their muscle fiber profiles to levels comparable to people in their 50s. The biological mechanism behind these remarkable results involves a concept called eccentric overload. When lowering into a chair slowly with control, the leg muscles must resist gravity while lengthening, which creates microscopic tears in muscle fibers that trigger powerful adaptation responses. The body responds by rebuilding the muscle stronger and larger to handle the stress. This eccentric phase creates muscle protein synthesis rates 300% higher than traditional concentric exercises like leg presses or squats. A groundbreaking study from Harvard Medical School followed 600 adults over 70 who performed tempo sit-to-stands 3 times weekly for 16 weeks. The results were extraordinary. Participants increased their 1-repetition maximum leg strength by an average of 53%. Walking speed increased by 19%. Balance scores improved by 31%. Most remarkably, when researchers analyzed blood markers of muscle aging, they found that mitochondrial function had improved to levels typically seen in people 15 years younger. The exercise literally reversed cellular markers of aging. Martha, 77 years old and a retired nurse, had reached the point where standing from her dining chairs required pushing with both arms, and getting up from the toilet had become so difficult she was considering installing grab bars throughout her home. Her adult children worried she would soon need to move to assisted living. After learning the tempo sit-to-stand technique from a physical therapist, Martha committed to practicing it every other day. The first week felt impossibly difficult, and she could barely control her descent into the chair. By week 3, the movement felt more controlled. By week 6, she stood from her dining chairs using just one hand for light balance. At week 12, she stood from standard height chairs with no hands at all, something she had not been able to do in over 3 years. Her leg strength had returned to levels she had not experienced since her mid-60s. To perform tempo sit-to-stands correctly, start by standing directly in front of a sturdy chair with feet hip-width apart and positioned about 6 inches from the chair edge. Cross arms over the chest to prevent using them for assistance, or if balance is not yet sufficient, extend arms forward for balance only. Here is the critical tempo pattern that creates the muscle-building effect. Lower down toward the chair slowly over a full 5-second count, maintaining control throughout the entire descent with no flopping or dropping into the seat. Aim to barely touch the seat or hover just above it before immediately pushing back up to standing over a 2-second count. If full hovering is not yet possible, that simply means current strength requires building gradually. Start by sitting fully, pausing 1 second, then standing. Over weeks, decrease the sitting pause time until barely touching the seat becomes possible. Perform 3 sets of 8 repetitions every other day, never on consecutive days, as muscles need recovery time to rebuild stronger. As strength improves dramatically over 8 to 12 weeks, increase to 10 repetitions per set and eventually to 12 repetitions. For advanced practitioners after several months, perform the movement while holding light dumbbells of 3 to 5 pounds. Common mistakes include dropping into the chair without controlling the descent, which eliminates the eccentric training effect, using momentum to stand up quickly, which reduces muscle activation, or performing the exercise daily without rest days, which prevents recovery and strength gains. This single exercise, when performed consistently with proper technique and adequate recovery, can restore leg strength to levels thought permanently lost. Final recap and call to action: 18 Malware 20. Why? Leg strength after 70 does not have to follow an inevitable downward trajectory toward weakness, falls, and lost independence. These 5 exercises, when performed consistently, can rebuild muscle that conventional wisdom says cannot be recovered, can reverse cellular markers of aging that researchers once thought permanent, and can restore functional abilities that determine whether the next decade brings vibrant independence or devastating dependence. The seated toe raise prevents the trips and stumbles that lead to falls. The modified wall sit rebuilds quadriceps strength that allows standing from chairs and climbing stairs. The balanced calf raise restores lower leg power and ankle stability. The standing knee raise increases walking speed and step length that predict longevity. Most powerfully, the tempo sit to stand reverses muscle aging at the cellular level and rebuilds leg strength that can add years of independence to life. The choice facing anyone watching this video right now determines the trajectory of the years ahead. The decision to start with just one exercise today, master it over the next 2 weeks, then gradually add the others until building a complete leg strengthening routine that takes less than 20 minutes every other day. That decision determines whether walking with grandchildren at 85 happens freely or becomes impossible, whether living independently in a personal home continues, or whether conversations about assisted living become necessary. Whether the later years bring thriving vitality or mere survival through decline. Every day that passes without taking action is a day of irreversible muscle loss. Every week of inaction is a week the legs grow weaker and independence slips further away. But every single repetition of these exercises represents an investment in strength, stability, and independence that compounds over time into life-changing results. Start today with just the sit-to-stand exercise. Perform 3 sets of 8 repetitions. Master the 5-second lowering tempo. Feel the muscles working in ways they have not worked in years. Then commit to doing it again in 2 days. Now share in the comments which exercise will be tried first, or if struggling with leg weakness is something currently being experienced. Every comment gets read personally. If this video provided hope that leg strength can be rebuilt regardless of current age or fitness level, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that independence does not have to be lost. Subscribe to this channel for more evidence-based strategies that help seniors stay strong, mobile, and independent at any age. The future self 10 years from now will feel profound gratitude for the decision to watch this video today and take action on what was learned. Word count, 3497 words.